Everywhere you go, all you hear about is AI, artificial intelligence. It's everywhere. It's in the newspapers, it's online, it's on social media, everything. But today, I want to talk about how AI isn't doing what you think it's doing, and how we're just constantly being lied to. You see, AI is not the primary reason for all these corporate layoffs, no. And I have some interviews and some articles where some executives very close to what's going on with AI are being interviewed, and they give their real true thoughts. Because at the end of the day, all of this comes down to corporate greed. And they're going to find a way, whether it's telling people that they're underperformers, or whether it's saying that employers are lacking key skills. I mean, it's just excuse after excuse for corporate greed, corporate mismanagement, and layoffs and firings for no real fault of the employees at all. AI is just the latest excuse, the latest reason for these corporate massive layoffs. So I want to talk to you today about that and about how AI is not the reason that people are being laid off and you're massively being lied to. Let's dive in. Our first article is from CFO.com. And the headline is, Layoffs at Dell and possibly Cisco raise concerns about job market and AI, trial balance. In the context of recent global market dips and doubt around AI, this month's batch of layoffs doesn't indicate a promising job market for the remainder of the year. And this article, like all of my articles, are listed down in the description below so you can read them for yourself. The article goes on to say, in the context of recent global market dips and doubt around AI, this month's batch of layoffs so far doesn't indicate a promising job market for the remainder of the year. Recent layoffs, especially by notably large organizations, come with interesting reasonings. As finance leaders navigate multiple external and economic factors to end the year, taking note of these organizations and their reasons may be worthwhile. And then it goes on to talk about several companies, so let's dive into them one at a time. First is Dell. To capitalize on their AI investments and reduce its global workforce to less than 100,000 people, international computer manufacturer Dell laid off thousands of employees on its sales team. The exact number of their most recent round of layoffs is unspecified, but sales executives told their teams the company is getting leaner, according to a leaked internal memo. The company is likely still between 10,000 and 20,000 cuts away from meeting its workforce figure goal. And then let's dive a little bit more into what's going on with Dell. So I have an article from Business Insider, and the headline is, Dell staff say they aren't surprised about layoffs following its AI pivot. And some of the key headlines and takeaways here are, Dell laid off more workers this week, starting a process that some think may be the biggest in its history. 10 sources at the company shared their reactions to the layoffs with Business Insider. They said the move is all about AI and reducing the workforce to about 100,000 people. Dell began a major internal overhaul this week to simplify how we operate and reimagine work and customer experiences with AI. Dell execs told employees in an internal memo. As part of the challenges, the sales division was restructured and management streamlined. Dell also initiated a round of workforce reductions that some employees said they believed would continue across the quarter and potentially be the largest cut in Dell's history. Through a reorganization of our go-to-market teams and an ongoing series of actions, we are becoming a leaner company, a Dell spokesperson told Business Insider. 10 workers from across the company spoke to Business Insider, about how they view the changes. All asked not to be named as employees are not permitted to speak to the media. One sales support employee described how work had slowed down all week as staff watched their inboxes for an invitation to a meeting. This is horrible short term for morale, the employee said. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be in the dumpsters until the next Tell Dell or until we see third quarter earnings. The analogy being used is, we're burning the boats, said another, adding that the situation was a bit of a dumpster fire. So here's the thing. Once an employee knows that their job is on the line, especially if they've already been told that they're going to be part of the upcoming layoffs or that the department is going to be becoming part of the new upcoming layoffs, there is no reason for them to pretend like there's any sort of loyalty anymore. We talked about this back when we discussed voluntary layoffs and how some organizations want to do these layoffs give people a severance package and then tell them to keep hush hush, right? I mean, from my personal experience, I know people at Ultimate Chronos groups had to basically keep hush hush around their severance packages. And the reality is that is not going to happen. There are several ways to leak this information. And why wouldn't you? Number one, you've been hurt. You've been wronged. So why shouldn't you tell the world about what the company did to you? I mean, I guess that's good if you're getting years of severance, but if you're getting 2-3 months, I mean, why not tell the newspaper what's going on? Number two, it protects other people. All you read about in the news and reporting is how great the economy is, how amazing all the different organizations are doing. All you hear is a bunch of pie in the sky and really a bunch of lies. So why would people not want to protect others from jumping in? If companies are laying off people and they're saying 60% of the people laid off are being underperformers, shouldn't you get that message out to the world? Like, hey, you can come work here, but if it doesn't work out for any sort of reason, and that reason is probably not your fault, they're just going to label you as an underperformer, or at least your group, a percentage of that group, as underperformers, and then you may struggle to get a job. So it might be nice for a year or two, but you got to think about your long-term career. If people see you worked at a certain company, such as like Intuit, and you potentially could be an underperformer, I mean, that could affect your career for 5-10 years. So why not just pass on the opportunity to get laid off from out of the blue and then have a black record on your resume and go work for somewhere else? I mean, I think that's a smart thing to do, and I don't blame employees at all for, being secret whisperers to the news outlets about the truth of what's really going on with these organizations. The layoffs come as Dell rolls out its new AI strategy. Dell has been trialing AI tools internally since October 2023 and is now putting the plan into action, applying AI across product development, content management, sales tools, and customer service. The tools will make staff more efficient and free up their time for more important tasks, Corporate Strategy SVP told BI. As AI is adopted in the workplace, roles that involve more mundane and repetitive work are expected to become redundant. By 2030, McKinsey estimates that 12 million workers will need to change careers altogether. Workers said it was unsurprising that layoffs have started as a strategy is initiated. I expected it. It's a new quarter, and they're focusing on getting all support AI focused, said one laid off sales worker who has lost more than 60 people from their team. I'd rather be let go with a package than quit, the person added. Several Dell workers said that though layoffs were hard, they understood that AI was changing the nature of work. Purely from a business perspective, it makes sense, said one worker, adding that some roles involved only providing statements of work to another division. There is a desire to considerably downsize the specific workforce and replace them with AI solutions for sellers to be more self-sufficient and to speed up our current solutioning process, the employee explained. Others pointed to the increasing cost of AI servers, saying that reducing the workforce was a way to recoup costs on the enterprise side. Maybe I'm crazy, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but do any of you have a really great story to tell about an amazing AI experience? I know I experienced AI in the fast food drive-thru. And this was in Florida, not even in California. And it was absolutely terrible. I wanted to get, I think, a new orange dreamsicle shake, something that they've been spending millions of dollars probably on TV commercials and advertisements. And it kept thinking I wanted like a Tropicana orange juice. And I had to like struggle and fight with the AI drive-through attendant robot. And I mean, eventually I got my order right, but it's not really a great smooth experience, and it's taking a whole lot of time. And then also I saw this other YouTube video, I think of Upton, and he was going around and he was trying to be nice and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, they only got one little thing wrong, but a lot of people have their complete orders completely wrong. So I don't see how, at least in fast food, AI is making things more efficient. I get in California the new minimum wage law for fast food companies, I think with over 60 locations, they have to pay the employees $20 an hour. But I mean, if people are getting such terrible experience, and it's a drive-through, it's supposed to be fast, it's supposed to be convenient. Well, there's nothing fast about having to repeat your order to a robot 10 times, and there's nothing convenient about having to talk to a robot who doesn't understand what you're saying. And I know I talk fast, but just imagine people with accents, right? If it can't pick up a local English speaker, how's it going to pick up other people who are trying to get their food out of a drive-through situation? And then also you got to think about maybe like banking and some other kinds of customer service. I mean, when has that really answered your question? Now, if your job is just to tell people their account balance at a bank, okay, fine. But like for anything actually important, then yeah, you do need a person. Because, all right, if I want my banking accounts balance, all right, that shouldn't be a human's job. That's fair enough. But if I want something more complicated, I'm basically screwed. And unfortunately, one of the banks that I use is Bank of America. And I've had them for 15, 20 years, something like that. And for some reason, my account got updated and I started being charged a fee for my checking. And it was not really a straightforward reasoning why that happened. And it wasn't something that could just be stored in a knowledge base and then just spat out to me, giving me a clear answer, right? So things like that, yes, you need to talk to a person. And basically, I went to the chat feature and just basically said, I'm looking for a representative because no, I don't need to know my account balance. I don't need to know when my statement is due. I need to talk to an actual person to get my fee waived. And actually, at the end of the day, I had to go and get a brand new account because the account that I had changed. It was a complete mess. But basically, there was no way an AI robot could have handled that. So yeah, I mean, maybe you can get rid of some jobs, but if people's jobs are just to read people's account balance, then okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Or if your job is just to reset a password, that you actually have a good password reset functionality on your website, then that probably doesn't make sense either. But maybe if you want to know, like, I have a Salesforce certification and you have to do your continuing education on Trailhead. Trailhead's kind of a different website. I wasn't able to log in to Salesforce to get to Trailhead, and they had to create a ticket and I had to talk to them. They said, well, you're never going to have a username and password. All you're going to be able to do is get a one-time code to be able to get into your Trailhead to renew your Salesforce certification. So I've had a couple experiences just in the last month that there's no way a robot could take care of. Getting leaner. Aside from the impact of AI and automation, many workers also believe that the restructuring and layoffs were unsurprising business decisions. Most of it makes sense. Reductions in sales and marketing because we're relying more heavily on external sales channels that have deeper relationships with customers, shared one senior engineer. The consolidation of different storage product teams meant some roles were no longer necessary, the engineer said. But having team managers oversee multiple products rather than focus on one was a downside to the restructuring. 2 Dell employees in human resources told BI that layoffs would bring the workforce to under 100,000 people. Given the company had just under 120,000 full-time employees, according to internal data seen by BI in May, tens of thousands of staff are being let go. A Dell representative told BI, "We did not report or confirm any numbers associated with the restructure communicated to our internal team." One of the HR workers said that the target was driven by Bain mantra that to be a $100 billion company, you need to have 100,000 employees. The worker said they knew Dell had worked with Bain consultants on a number of projects since at least 2021. So I have a lot of experience with working with consultants. Fortunately, it's never ended up in me getting laid off from an organization. And it's not always as funny as them going around interviewing everyone and asking, what is it that you do here? And talking about how they celebrate Michael Bolton's complete catalog. But yes, you hire consultants for a lot of money to save money and to figure out how to streamline your organization. But an arbitrary number of 100,000 employees, like if you're rocking and rolling, everyone's working at a very high gear, you're seeing profits, you're getting sales, everyone's doing amazing, then would you still keep it under 100,000? I mean, that doesn't give you any room for growth, to elevate to the next level, to take advantages of new business opportunities, new key trends in the industry. I mean, that maybe is a way to stay afloat if you're doing very poorly, but I don't know how limiting the number of employees is going to take your organization to the next level. Dell shares were trading at about $180 in late May, but have since tumbled to around $91, valuing the company at just over $64 billion. And see, that's kind of what I'm saying. If you're saying that 100,000 employees is the number of employees to get you to 100 billion, and if you're going backwards and now your company is only worth 64 million, how is streamlining going to cost? At some point, you don't need to just save money and spend less money. You just got to make more money. Doesn't 120,000 people, especially in like sales, give you the opportunity to make a lot more money? Yes, you'll save on their salaries, but then isn't there going to be a limit to the number of sales that you're going to get, the amount of growth that you're going to see? 3 workers in other departments agree that Dell liked to run lean. This has been an ongoing legacy thing that everybody always says. Anytime we go over 100,000 employees, expect some workforce reduction, a sales support worker said. The employee believed that meant more layoffs lie ahead. It's going to suck all quarter, let's be real. And okay, if this has been your mantra for a while, at least since you talked to Bain in 2021, then wait, how did you get above 100,000? Shouldn't it be, oh, we have 90,000, so we can hire, I don't think this is a good strategy at all, but let's say you think that it is a good strategy. We have 90,000 employees, okay, we can hire 10,000. Maybe if there's something we want to get into, we may need to reorganize once we're around 100,000 to let go of 5 to 10,000, hire those people who have the experience in that new industry or sector we want to get into. Okay, that makes sense. But how do you get to 120,000 and then drop down to 100,000, right? It's the same thing with most of these tech companies. They way overhired during the pandemic and then they just had to fire people because there's no long-term strategy. I mean, if one of your mantras is we can't have over 100,000 people, then how do you get 120,000 people? They're just playing games with people's lives. I mean, yes, it's their job. In a perfect world, you can go easily get a new job, but we don't live in a perfect world. So you're playing with people's livelihoods, their family. If you're looking to work at Dell, apparently you have to see how many employees they currently have. And if it's over 100,000, don't even apply there because you could easily be let go in a couple months. You could leave a good job, a good situation, do a good job at Dell, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, it's our fault. We hired way too many people. Now you're out in the streets again. If you've been doing your homework about what's going on in business and artificial intelligence, Elliott Management will ring a bell to you. So this article dives a little bit deeper into what they have to say. It is an article from CFO.com, and the headline is, Elliott Management letter says AI is overhyped and NVIDIA is in bubble land. The activist investor group had its letter to investors leaked by the Financial Times, and it reveals the firm's stance on AI and investments surrounding it. So once again, if you say something out loud, it's probably going to get leaked, no matter what size your organization is or what's going on. When are these executives going to learn that you can't trust anybody, right? Especially our recent example when we talked about Ultimate Kronos Group. They laid off a huge percentage, I think it was 12% of their employees July 3rd, the day before Independence Day, giving them their independence a little bit early. And they said that they only did that because the information of the firing that was going to happen the next week got out a little bit early. And they're like, oh, well, people are going to know about this. Let's scramble and fire them quicker. And it's just crazy that people have not learned, if you're going to make a big decision, keep it to the main executive, maybe 2 or 3, but you go around telling a whole bunch of people, it's going to spread and it's going to leak. It's good for the people to know, but really you shouldn't just be gossiping and sharing this information to just anyone who will listen. Elliott Management, the notorious activist investor group that made headlines for infiltrating the board of Southwest Airlines despite the company's poison pill attempt to keep them out, most recently taking a stake in Starbucks, who we've talked about previously and how poorly they're doing and how they changed their whole company philosophy and mantra and everything just to make more profits, has unintentionally revealed its position on the AI-powered technology space, according to the Financial Times. So this is a player in Southwest Airlines, in Starbucks. So it's a company that is plugged in and definitely definitely need to hear out their opinion on AI. In a letter seen by FT, but not published, only referenced, Elliott indicated to its investors a bearish stance on AI, avoiding the Magnificent Seven stocks, and saying NVIDIA, the largest and most valuable chip manufacturer in the world, is in bubble land. The letter also states AI is overrated, a sentiment many CFOs have been keenly aware of and expressed skepticism about the sustainability of tech companies continuing to push for AI investment. The letter goes on to say AI is overhyped, with many applications not ready for prime time, and that uses are never going to be cost efficient, are never going to actually work right, will take up too much energy, and will prove to be untrustworthy. These claims come as NVIDIA's stock has fallen more than 20% since June. During that time, it briefly became the world's largest company with a market capitalization of more than $3.3 trillion before being overtaken by Microsoft and Apple. The stock is still up about 120% this year. Intel, who we've talked about in 2 different videos, a competitor of NVIDIA in the chip making space, also saw its shares tumble 20%, but all in one day late last week, despite receiving $8.5 billion in taxpayer money to bring chip making back to the US. Intel announced it is cutting 15% of its workforce, amounting to 17,000 jobs, as part of a massive cost-cutting and restructuring plan. Investors responded by selling off the stocks in droves. So if Elliott Management is telling people that AI is overhyped, overrated, and then there's other reports of other CFOs and other technology executives saying the same thing, then is the problem that you're going to lose your job because AI is doing it better? Is the problem that AI is so advanced and so incredible and so amazing that it's going to do much better than a human could ever do? Or is the problem that companies want to make as much money as possible, and they know that the buzz on the street and the common everyday person has heard about how incredible AI is and how it's going to take all their jobs, and it just perfectly feeds into their narrative? Instead of saying, oh, we want to make sure the CEOs make as much money as possible, that all the executives have yachts and party boats and fancy vacations and anything they want, and we're just going to lay off the common man and streamline and have a skeleton crew where the people remaining are taking on 2 to 3 people's work, and probably the work of AI that's not really doing a great job. Like, they're not telling you the truth. These executives are lying to you, and this is more proof that they don't believe what they're selling. It's just a fancy excuse and a fancy reason to lay off people, drive up the shareholder price, and that's it. If it wasn't AI, it could be something else, but AI is the easiest thing to blame right now. Back to the original CFO.com article. Cisco, after recently laying off 4,000 employees earlier this year, Reuters reported the global hardware and software developer Cisco's plan to do another round of layoffs. The report speculates the number to be around 4,000, the same as last time. Official announcements of the cuts are expected on their August 14th earnings call. So by the time you see this, it might already be out, but at the time of filming, that hasn't happened yet. And yeah, I mean, Cisco, another one, just did layoffs, gonna do layoffs again. And we've talked multiple times here about how there are tea leaves. There is writing on the wall. It's just you don't really pay attention until it's a big number, like 10% of the workforce is being eliminated, 12%, 15%. But when they start closing branches, start closing a couple offices, fire 100, 100 or 200 people here and there, you don't really pay attention to it. It doesn't make breaking news, but those are the kind of things you have to pay attention to, because that's just the calm before the storm. You know, they start off by laying off just one department here or there, and then all of a sudden, before you even know it, 10% is gone. So you got to pay attention to any kind of layoffs that these companies are doing, even if they're just small ones. Then I found the article from Reuters, and they say, exclusive, Cisco to lay off thousands more in second job cut this year. Cisco will cut thousands of jobs in a second round of layoffs this year as the U.S. networking equipment maker shifts focus to higher growth areas, including cybersecurity and AI. People familiar with the matter said. And what could go wrong with cybersecurity if you don't do a great job at it or if you're just new to the industry? I couldn't think of anything. And AI, which we've already talked about, but let's dive a little bit deeper. The company employed around 84,900 people as of July 2023, according to its annual filings. That number does not account for the February layoffs. Cisco did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Its shares fell nearly 1% after Reuters first reported the cuts. The stock was down over 9% this year as of Thursday's close. Cisco, the largest maker of the routers and switches that direct internet traffic, has been grappling with sluggish demand and supply chain constraints in its mainstay business. This has pushed the company to diversify with moves such as a $28 billion buyout of cybersecurity firm Splunk, which it completed in March. The acquisition will reduce its reliance on one-time equipment sales by boosting its subscription business. The company has been trying to incorporate AI products into its offerings, and in May reiterated its target of $1 billion worth of AI product orders in 2025. In June, it launched a $1 billion fund to make investments in AI startups such as Cohere, Mistral AI, and Scale AI. The company said at the time it had made 20 AI-focused acquisitions and investments in the past several years. The layoffs are the latest in the tech industry, which has been cutting costs this year to offset big investments in AI. Over 126,000 people have been laid off across 393 tech companies since the start of the year, according to data from the tracking website Layoffs.fyi. So what's the truth here? Because to me, it doesn't add up. If you're saying that your company is hurting for money, that you're struggling, and you got to do things to cut costs, how are you spending all this money on these other companies, investing into different companies? Shouldn't you make sure that the company that you have is doing well in the first place? That the people who got you to that level, shouldn't they be rewarded? And shouldn't they be taken care of over bailing out a different company? So the narrative of these companies not having any money, not making enough money, profits going down, sales going down, the narrative of people with normal everyday jobs just having their jobs replaced by AI is complete BS. I mean, Cisco has plenty of money and they're just investing it in AI companies. But that's not the same thing as, you're not doing a good enough job, you could easily be replaced by a computer. That is, we just have completely different business interests and we're going to invest in that and cut people who have been working hard for the company for God knows how long. So what do you think? After going over all this data and these articles, do you believe that things are as simple as humans bad, computers good? Or do you think that AI is mostly being used as a scapegoat, as a reasoning, as an explanation for corporate greed, corporate mismanagement, and it's just the easy way out? I mean, after reading these articles and hearing these statements, I gotta feel that in quiet rooms, in secret rooms, locked rooms, executives are like, no, AI is not ready for prime time. It's good, it's helpful. Maybe I can get rid of the lowest, quote unquote, lowest level of employees. I personally believe that we're being lied to. Talk to you later.